What we learned in this episode. This episode contains language not suitable for children. This episode contains spoilers for Dorohedoro. The views expressed in this episode do not reflect Dub Talk as a whole. What we're going to learn next episode is still lost in chaos. That is the Dub Talk Podcast. Hello, listeners. Oh, wait, hold on. I gotta turn the stomp box off. Hello, listeners. Welcome. It's another episode of Dub Talk. And do we have a show for you tonight? Maybe you're expecting something low-key, slice of life, a little romance. I regret to tell you that you have picked the wrong episode. I don't know why you clicked on something with this art on it if you're expecting that. The lizard man should have been a tip-off. No. We are in fact going to take you on a little mad dash run through the world of Dorohedoro, the Mappa-produced 2019 hit anime that has all the people clamoring and also just kind of confused and weirded out because what the fuck is going on? However, I'm not covering this by myself. Joining me here tonight are my good compatriots, Hardy.
Gyoza.
Exactly. Jet.
I wish I had a plate of Gyoza, but all I have is exhaustion.
And Andrew.
See, y'all talking about eating gyoza. Some fucking sorcerer turned my head into a giant thing of gyoza, and now I don't even have a mouth anymore. All you hear are, like, my telepathic brain waves now, because I have no mouth and I am gyoza.
Hey,
That's
Andrew, come here real quick. Come here. Just
What can I help you?
Come here.
What do you want? Ah, God! Oh, God! Oh, God! That's where my brains are. My brains are filled with pork dumpling sauce.
Oh, your braids are delicious.
And if you're listening at home, no, I regret to inform you, cannibalism is in fact not off the table in this show. So, we learned that pretty early on. So if you're disgusted by this, just leave now. It's not going to get any better.
This is a show that is not for the squeamish.
It's not for the decent either.
Yeah, it is also a lot sillier than its grunginess would imply.
Like, you look at the show, you listen to a synopsis of the show, you look at the aesthetic, and you think this is going to be... How do I describe this?
Normal.
Linkin Park AMV-ish, yes.
No. Well, see, they're in the right ballpark, but not that kind of metal-influenced music from the late 90s and early 2000s. But I'll get to that much later.
More like a Tool music video, if anything.
I can see it.
That's probably closer. I feel like Dorohedoro doesn't take itself as seriously as Tool does.
With a little bit of gore mixed in for good measure.
Actually, gore is a very good point of reference now that I think about it. Like that, there you go. Mm-hmm. But what is Dorohedoro?
What is it, indeed?
Well, Dorohedoro is about a guy named Kaiman. Kaiman's having a hard time of things because one day he woke up in an alley with a lizard head and no memory of what his deal was prior to that. It's very distressing. So he kind of has menial jobs in this place he lives called The Hole. A dingy, shitty little city that occasionally gets invaded by sorcerers from the next dimension over, who basically use the populace there as guinea pigs for their magic. Kaiman's just trying to find out what the fuck happened to his head. He's got a buddy, Nikaido. She runs a restaurant. She makes gyoza. They're pals. It's very charming. There's also this mob sorcerer family who want to kill Kaiman, in part because he's weird, and also he gorked one of their lackey's buddies, who's still kind of bitter about it. Chaos ensues.
Chaos ensues really is the best way to describe this, because there's a setup. I would not really say there is a plot. There is setup. Every character has history, every character has backstory, every character has relationship with other characters, everybody's got their own deal, everybody's got their own story. It's less about there is an end goal and more about you want to find out how these people got to be where they were and how they are now.
Basically, you could say this is a mystery, but it is very easily distracted.
It's the kind of show where maybe the episode people were most excited about getting animated does have plot in it, but it's mostly about a baseball game.
The baseball game is one thing, and then they're also throwing like fancy rich people parties. They're doing jobs, like not even like fancy jobs. They're doing
they're fighting zombies.
Oh yeah, there's just a day where they just fight zombies, and they're just making money and winning like Chuck E. Cheese prizes.
And there's a guy with a baked turkey on his head.
That's true.
Everybody's got a mask. Everybody's like...
Well, at least they're all COVID compliant.
They are. Everybody is wearing a mask, and
it's like, well, I mean, Fujita doesn't cover his mouth, so he's not good.
Yeah, and Shin's has a big hole in it, so.
And then the guy that thinks he's En's partner, but En doesn't think he's his partner. His entire face is covered except his mouth. So there's a couple of exceptions to the rule, but
I mean, let's be honest. None of these people would actually be afraid of a fatal disease. They just magic it away or something.
See,
or they die from it out of stupidity. One of the
I'll
two.
say this: this is a show that knows that it has a world and power system that it can get away with casually, very casually, brutalizing, murderizing, and slice and dicing all of its characters with reckless abandon because it can fix them up pretty easily.
Little asterisk there, but
it's like Looney Tunes or Tom and Jerry, just like a little gorier.
You can have a little gore here as a treat.
Anyways. Dorohedoro. Gentlemen, shall we get started?
I'd love to, yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Let us start with our staff. We do not have a credited scriptwriter per se on the show, but we do have Adr Directors. And the Adr Directors for the show are Bob Buchholz and Megan Buchholz, who you know for their work on such shows as Devilman Crybaby, Penguin Highway, and Violet Evergarden, except for the OVA episodes, where Megan Buchholz is the only credited director, and Bob Buchholz is credited as adapter. Which I'm assuming basically means he does what at Funimation would be considered script writing, but it's mostly just massaging whatever the translator gives him into stuff that fits mouth flaps or something like that. Obviously we don't know for sure, but like based on the general track record I see with widespread dubs, it's very likely those two probably just did the script themselves. That's always kind of been my assumption, is they probably do stuff that at other places would be credited as scriptwriter, but in their instance it's less heavy duty, so they don't really get credited as that person.
The important thing to note is that this duo they're in charge of the behind-the-scenes shebang that makes this dub tick.
Yes. Gentlemen, what did you think of the direction on this dub? Jet, you want to go first?
Sure. So typically, is the case with me in widespread dubs, I kind of mixed on the ADR stuff. I've been kind of critical of widespread dubs, tending to cast the same 20 or so actors in all their dubs previously. But they've gotten a little more creative on that end lately, and this dub is a pretty good example. There's some fun casting choices here, and while there's plenty of familiar faces, there's also a few who are doing something a little more outside of their wheelhouse, and that's a lot of fun. Like we were talking about it tonight, but I do appreciate Chris Smith doing his best Pink Panther impression of Sturkey. That was really funny. The actual vocal direction here is pretty solid for the most part, and while nothing here blew me away on that end, I don't think anyone was directed badly. I definitely felt like all the actors were given enough room to really strut their stuff. Script-wise, things were also pretty solid. Though this kind of had my other ongoing issue with widespread dubs and that their translations can sometimes be a little too overly literal. In the case of this show, it's not like a huge detriment because Dorohedoro was kind of weird as they didn't begin with. So not only was there not a hold on the punch out, but in some ways punching things up might have ruined the joke, so I guess it works. But if there's one thing that's kind of unacceptable script-wise, and might sound a little weird coming from me, I felt like the characters maybe could have swore a little more. Like, I
Wait,
usually don't
what?
carry holds. I felt like the characters maybe could have swore a little more. Like, I don't usually carry a whole ton about that. But given the super grungy atmosphere of the show, I was kind of expecting a little more of it. And it's kind of weird we never get like a single S or F bomb, which is kind of weird because like Kaiman particularly strikes me as the kind of guy who'd be dropping them literally all the time. Like it's not a big deal breaker in the grand scheme of things, but it's just kind of like a weird nitpick.
See,
But on the whole,
my argument to that is this. While yes, this is a violent, grungy, very dark universe, it's also kind of a little wholesome too, where I can believe most of these people would casually murder, decapitate, and like decimate corpses by the hundreds. But I feel like I wouldn't see some of these characters drop an F-bomb in their life.
okay, like when I say that, I'm mostly talking about Kaiman. Kaiman is the one who would definitely do that.
Oh, Kaiman will fuck your shit up, of course. But like,
Okay.
look at now Noe. Noe would not say a bad swear word in her life. I don't believe it. Like she would not say those naughty words. She would put a quarter in a swear jar. Sorry, I know we're very much going away from the point you were raising, but that's my thinking of it.
Okay, but yeah, on the whole, I dug it up. Like, it's not quite my favorite of the year, or even my favorite Spice Friend of the year, but I definitely had a lot of fun with it. And I'm done.
All right. Hardy, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I like the Buchholz work. They've sort of formed a name for themselves as being the go-to directors for Netflix dubs these days, and they haven't always been my favorite, but they do good job. They do a good job. I can't brain anymore. Yeah, I think that there were some really good casting choices of both old and new talent, and there were some really bold vocal directions for certain characters, like say the Pink Panther or the openly effeminate character, or just came in screaming his lungs out at every possible turn. There wasn't anything that I would say was badly cast, and everything was fairly good fun to listen to, and I enjoyed it. I'm not the type who really pays attention to the script writing, and I didn't see any real faults among it, so I think it was a relatively good job.
All right. Andrew?
I will definitely say that not every I feel like some of the criticisms that Jet was talking about earlier about some of the earlier Splice Bread projects, some of those criticisms I think still are a little apparent, specifically the fact that they have like a smaller talent cast pool that they're very comfortable with using, and there's definitely a couple of familiar faces in a lot of their other projects I've hear in this, but I'll definitely say within the past year or two, they've definitely been expanding their talent pool. I don't know if that's like because of the fact that a lot of Netflix dub projects are going union now, or if they've got production people that are outwardly trying to break the mold and get new, fresher talent. But I will definitely say this has a pretty cool cast, all things considered. This is a wild show. It's a wacky show. It is pure chaos and insanity. But it does not, I will say for the most part, it is not a show that really emphasizes it or makes it seem like a full-on wacky cartoon world, with the exception of maybe a couple of characters, and those were the ones that I think took me out of the show a little bit more, is that this is a wacky show, but these people need to sound like this is a world they fit in or a world they've adapted to. And when you've got psycho killers, people who work on magic corpses, people who can turn people into magic items, kick people's ass, decapitate them, slice and dice. This is a world that is full-on chaos, and the cast really shows their stuff. There's a couple of pretty good performances, and there's a couple of genuinely great performances that have blown me away, some of which I'd even argue are career highlights for at least one or two of them in particular. Even a couple of veteran people who are playing roles and vocal performances I'm really, really not accustomed for them. I think there's no real, like, major glaring script problems, but I will say this. I will give extra praise in one regard, in that this was one of the earlier projects that was recorded entirely from home. Like, this is a post-COVID recorded dub where the entire cast and crew was doing this project from their home recording booths. And most of the time, you would never even notice this. You would put this on, and you genuinely probably would not be able to tell. With the exception of, like, one genuinely glaring actor where it's like, I hear their mic quality and you can tell they're having some difficulties with their setup. This is not like a detriment. This is not a fuck this dub 0 out of 10. It's just, this is a dub that was recorded in the early days when people were actively adapting and starting to do a home recording setup. And while most of this project is kind of spotless and really sounds clean and high quality given the circumstances, there's like one particular actor's mic quality that's a little bit jarring and noticeable, and I will definitely bring it up when we refer to them. That being said, this is a really interesting cast. This is a really interesting show, and Bob and Megan are very reliable at what they do, and I think there's some really fun, insane, and very memorable performances in this ensemble of chaos.
All right. As for me, I'm at a the dub is at an advantage here, which is that Dorohedoro is exactly my kind of stupid nonsense. You put this on, it's like, oh, it's a show for me.
It's very much
how nice of them.
It's very much Amon brand, without a doubt.
It's weird and trashy and grungy. If it were made in the 70s, the OP would be a Cramp song. It's great. And I enjoyed the dub a lot. Usually, a lot of times often kind of one of my overall yardsticks for a dub is just how much do I feel this dub fits the thing I'm watching on screen. And I thought this worked really well. I thought it did a good job of capturing the fact that the world of Dorohedoro is horrifying, but it's also just kind of baseline reality for most of these people. It's like, yeah, sorcerers might turn you into something, and you might die. And it's just kind of what happens.
Them's the breaks!
Like, you can't really do anything about them. They're there, they're more powerful. Oh well. Maybe the doc can remove that mushroom off your back and go about your life. Maybe you'll die. It happens. And I thought it did a weirdly good job of capturing that kind of accepted fatalism. Just, yeah, shit's weird.
It's
shrug.
You know what it is? It's kind of like it's the expectation versus reality of nihilism. It's basically the filtered black and white image, nothing in life matters expectation, and then it's just the hyper stylized 90s rainbow clip art with a kid giving you a thumbs up. Yeah, nothing in life matters. That's Dorohedoro.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So it's a grungy Lisa Frank?
Yeah, that exists. Time to go look for clip art to put in the episode. Anyways,
it's like Lisa Frank meets the Garbage Pail Kids.
I hate how right you
are.
God.
Oh god, you're bringing the Garbage Pail Kids into this?
Oof.
Ugh.
He's not wrong, that's the sad part.
You're not, and I hate you for it.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed watching this dub a lot. I thought the cast was really well done. I had a lot of fun watching it. I didn't have a lot of issues with sound quality. That's mostly because I watch like 90% of my anime on my laptop, which I'm not even sure is in stereo, frankly. So, sorry, not my laptop, my tablet. So the speakers are even worse. So long as it's audible, I'm usually happy with it. So, Yeah, like, I think this is really solid. If nothing else, I think you wanna watch this weird fucking show Netflix keeps pushing at you. This is a fine way to watch it. Go check it out. And with that, shall we move on to our first cast of characters?
Let's talk about the characters of Dorohedoro.
All right, we're gonna cover that oh so important character category, minor characters, because they're there. Starting off, we have Tanba. Tanba owns a restaurant called Restaurant Tanba. Kaiman works there briefly. Tanba dresses like a panda. He briefly gets into a meat pie selling contest with a former employee of his who casts love potions on people, up until the point where it stops working. Oops. We have Fukuyama, who also works at this restaurant. He's a nice guy. He's friends with Kaimon. He wears a ski mask. There's also the third employee there, but they don't speak, so we're not going to talk about them, because they don't have an actor. We have Asu. Asu is this big devil who works for another devil we'll get to in a minute. He has a connection to Nikaido. He likes Nikaido. They're pals. He'll go on a limb for her. He's a big scary guy.
He'll go out on a limb, he'll take out a limb for her. You know.
Something like that. We have Chidoruma. He is the ruler of hell. He's functionally God.
Oh, is that what his deal is? Okay.
Yeah, I read a little bit on the Wikipedia article. Yeah, he's basically God.
Cool.
That's his deal.
Okay.
He's not. You wouldn't expect that from looking at him. He wears like a what do you call it? A hoodie and like no pants, because none of the devils in this universe really dress all that well.
He looks like what you would expect a heavy metal biker would look like.
Yeah.
He looks like the mascot for a fifth-rate metal band from like Indiana.
I mean, he doesn't. I mean, he wouldn't look out of the place if it's in a North Star either.
You're not wrong.
Can't argue with that. Also, importantly to the plot, he makes contracts between magic users, which is like a special bond they share. I get into more here, but it's complicated, and I don't remember that part very well, so just go watch the show and it'll explain better than I can. And we have Risu. Risu's interesting. We forgot to mention earlier, one of the problems Kaimon has is he has a man living in his throat. And if he bites people on the head, the man in his throat will look at them and inform the person he's bitten if they are the person who gave Kaimon a lizard head. And then Kaimon will stop biting on their head and ask them, what did the guy in my throat tell you? And he'll say yes or no, and things will go from there. That's Risu. And we also run into him in a few other places. He's very mysterious. What is his deal? Watch the show and find out. And then wait for season 2 or read the manga, whichever you prefer, and you can find out some more if you're impatient. Playing these characters. Tanba is played by Taylor Henry, who you know for such roles as Giuliano Flip in B&A Brand New Animal, Fujimaki in Megalobox, and of course, Le Comte de Monte Cristo in Gankutsuo, The Count of Monte Cristo. Fukuyama is played by Michael Chapman. You know him for roles such as Miguno in Beastars, Masura in High Score Girl, and Tetsu in This Corner of the World. I saw a few places that claim this is the same Michael Chapman who co-created Homestar Runner. I could find zero evidence that is actually true, but I don't know, maybe.
It's possible, but that's one of those what the actual hell things that I'm not sure I 100% believe.
Yeah, like, I know he does work in LA in animation, but he is not the one of the brothers who did most of the voice acting, and I mean, Michael Chapman's not exactly an uncommon name, so who knows. Asu is played by Todd Havercorn, you know for roles such as Komiya in Agretsuko, a character on Attack on Titan whose name I didn't write down here, and Furio Porcianenzo, I'm sorry, Italian speakers, in Bakano. Shidoruma is... Yes?
I was gonna say, I think I know exactly which Attack on Titan character you're talking about, but they're around.
Look, I haven't watched Attack on Titan since Season 1. Nothing you say will make any sense to me, I assure you.
Just say that he's Natsu in Fairy Tail.
Oh yeah, he's Natsu in Fairy Tail.
That too.
Shidoruma is played by Chris Smith, who you know for such roles as Kinosuke Kuzuhara in Durarara, Kitan in Gurren Lagann, and Aldo in Violet Evergarden. He also voices the character of Turkey, who we're not talking about today because he only shows up for about 5 to 7 minutes.
He cooks a naked noi. He cooks a naked noi, which you know what.
He can make dolls of people, which will then like go to wherever the person is, and he illustrates this by making noi in front of Shin, and this clone of Noi does not have any clothing, and Shin is very embarrassed by this whole situation.
I would imagine
and
most
Risu.
people would be.
I'm sure. And Risu, who is played by Billy Kometz, who you know for such roles as Anai in Agretsuko, Josuke
Higashikata.
Higashikata in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable, and Galothymos in Promare.
Timos,
thank you. I haven't actually watched the dub, so I have no idea how it's pronounced. Thank you.
He does have thighs for days, though. It's fine.
Jet, would you like to start us again?
Sure, I don't have notes for any of these characters, and I'll be real quick with this. Taylor Henry is Tanba. First and foremost, since this is technically a union now, I'm kind of surprised he's going by that name, but I guess it is what it is. Anyway, I thought he was really fun as Tanba. He's always really good at playing really gruff characters, so this was definitely really in his wheelhouse. And he did a really good job of just making Tanba come off as just like this really kind of gruff and tough manager guy. It's like, he beats up Kaiman a lot, but he has a good heart. He looks out for Kaiman in his own way. And I appreciate when like Kaiman like gives him his whole story. He agrees to help Kaiman out, even if he isn't exactly nice about it. I also appreciate the punchline at the end when like Kaiman finally stops working for him, and Tanba's like, "Hey, well that's alright, you know, like I never actually paid you for anything." It's like, oh wow.
Unions? Workers' rights? What are those? Those don't exist in the Hall.
No, he wasn't even from the Hole. He was from the world of the sorcerers, which I can only.
I'm sure the laws are much better there.
Are they? Are they?
That was sarcasm, Andrew.
Okay, fair.
Michael Chapman as Fukuyama. He didn't leave like too big of an impression on me, but I thought it was he sounded pretty nice. He was a pretty good bro to Kaiman. He helped out a little bit when like Kaiman was in the world of sorcerers, so I thought they had a pretty. I thought they had a pretty decent dynamic. Like, and also like Kaiman, he gets beat up by Tanba here a lot, but you can tell he has a lot of respect for him. So I thought Michael got that across pretty well. I don't have too much else to say on that, but yeah. Todd Habercorn is Asu. We don't see too much of Asu in the show, but I thought he had a pretty good dynamic with Nikaido. We don't know what their exact history is, but you can tell he does care a lot about her, and he's willing to look out for her. So I thought their dynamic was pretty sweet. I also he doesn't interact with too many of the other characters too much. I thought he did a pretty good job of bouncing off of them. I was just kind of like all his little bits with Chota. I thought they had a pretty fun dynamic for how well they interacted. Especially when he just kind of like coerces Chota into doing whatever he wants. I thought that whole thing was pretty funny. And yeah, I really do want to see more of Asu. So yeah, hopefully we get another season. And Shiridharma, I actually was not expecting him to be as important as Amon described, but either way, Chris Smith was definitely a lot of fun here. He does a really good job of just making him sound really grungy and nasty, which was definitely a lot of fun to listen to. And knowing that this guy is like apparently in charge of everything kind of makes it funnier, especially with how like completely silly he looks. But either way, Chris Smith was definitely a lot of fun as him. So I'm definitely looking forward. So again, I hope we get to see more of him in the future. And lastly, Billy Kometz as Risu. This character's got a pretty close within Billy Kometz's usual wheelhouse, and he does a really good job of kind of making him sound like not like a total dude bro, but like a little bit of a rougher dude. So it's not too surprising when you find out he has like a little bit of a rougher background, and that like he's one of those sorcerers who can't put out a lot of smoke. So I thought that whole backstory was kind of interesting. We don't learn too much about his history, but what we do get kind of paints him as a guy who's just kind of doing his best to get by in the world, and I think Billy gets that across pretty well. And I'm definitely curious to learn more about him, and especially whatever weird connection he has to Kaiman. I mean, I also thought he did like a pretty good job bouncing off of like Ed's crew for how little he was with them in the show. I thought, I thought he did a pretty good job of busting their chops while they were just like really desperate to get any information out of them, and he was just completely clueless about Billy's delivery. There was pretty funny. But yeah, on the whole, I liked all these performances. They were pretty fun.
Okay.
Hardy, you want to go next?
Okay. I don't really have much to say about this group because the only ones who really stand out to me, the only one who really stands out is Tanba, because that's your basic gruff, bossy sort of, heavy Taylor Henry role that he's very famous for. He's a lot of fun to listen to, but I mean, this isn't. We've heard him play this character so many times, and he's basically got it down pat. So, it's nothing new or exciting here, but he does it really well. Fukuyama is just sort of a background character. I didn't really pay much attention to him, so there's that. Asu is basically Todd Haberkorn's slow, sort of menacing voice, but even so, he's sort of got this like naturally paternal tone to it when he interacts with Nikaido. He sort of has this sort of more of a gentle giant sort of voice to it, but he can also be very frightening. When someone calls him a bastard, he goes, "Do you want to go to hell?"
He'll give Nikaido and Nikaido alone a big hug, and the rest of you he'll probably just, stab you with a pitchfork and decapitate you and send you to hell.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have a confession to make. Sure. I completely don't remember the character of Chidaruma, at all.
He's only in like one episode. So.
I don't know how I missed out on this, but I don't even recall what he looks like.
He legit looks like a much more stereotypical demon satanic kind of guy who's wearing a leather jacket. He's the guy that they signed the contracts for when they sort of
he was there in Nori's backstory, if you remember the one she was interacting with.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a while. I only watched the last 3 episodes tonight to just sort of remember how I got what I thought of the majority of the performances, but I watched the whole thing months ago, so there's cool. A lot I missed. Yeah. Yeah. And Billy Kometz as Risu, he just shows up too late for me to really care. But when you do realize that he is the one, spoilers, who's in Cayman's mouth, you do sort of get more of a menacing tone from him. And I like how the very last words of the entire series are him going, "You are," and then it cuts it off. So, I mean, I don't have much to say about it, but these were all good performances.
All right. Andrew.
I think I'll start with Fukuyama because I was kind of alluding to it a little earlier, but when I was watching this today, I was watching the last couple episodes today, I genuinely think that Michael Chapman's audio setup was not up to snuff compared to the rest of this cast. It's got, there's just something about the quality of his dialogue when he's talking to characters right next to him that sounds a lot more, I don't even know how to describe it, but it sounds a little more...
Lossy?
Lossy, yeah, kind of. How do I describe it? It's jarring when he's next to Kaiman, because Kaiman is literally wearing a mask that is covering his face and distorts his audio and muffles it. And Kaiman does not sound as muffled as the character next to him. And that was kind of jarring to me on a technical level. I will give benefit of the doubt in that Dorohedoro, time-wise of when it would probably begin, it was maybe cast before it, but timeline of actually recording and doing it was maybe as people were really starting to set it out. I guarantee you a lot of these actors' home setups are way more updated and improved than they were when they started recording Dorohedoro. I will give that benefit of the doubt. Sorry?
I think Christina V paid like $12,000 total on her setup or something like that. It's insane.
Oh, there's people that straight up bought, like, entire booths, but there's also people that just, like, basically DIY'd their own booths, because, like, watching the Funimation do it from home, like, Tia's is just a closet that she can just kind of shimmy through, and she makes it work. You don't necessarily need a giant, like, you don't need a cube of voice, but if you want a cube of voice, you fucking can. Go for it. It's just, like I said, I'm gonna be a little lenient to this because this was an early, post-COVID dub. But I feel it's a little jarring, and if it either gets updated on Netflix or a future home video release, I feel like maybe some of Michael's audio needs to be updated and, like, improved and tweaked. But I think Michael does a good job sounding like a nice, sweet boy in Fukuyama. I think Todd does a decent job sounding like a kind of, like, creepy, menacing devil guy who's friends with Nikaido. And the demon's a cool character. He does a good job. Chris Smith, he's a great actor. He does a good job as Chidaruma, and he also does a great job as the Turkey Man, who's just this very strange character. Billy Cometta's Risu. Risu is so goddamn strange. At the beginning of the show, I actually thought Risu had the same voice actor as Kaiman, but it is a different voice actor. As soon as I... Sorry, I'm a little brain too. Blech. Once I started to hear it was Billy Cometa, I was like, oh yeah, no, that's Billy. It sounds like a much more, this is a Billy that will kind of pull a knife out and steal your money. This is not the friendly Gallotimos or the Ferdinand von Ayer. This is the Billy Kometz that would probably kill Batman's parents.
Eesh.
I don't mean that. That is not a diss on the voice. I mean that, like, literally, this is a character who's got in with a bad crowd, and you can tell he's been with a bad crowd because he's dead. He's literally died, and he is now alive again with a robotic body that Ed just threw money at to try and figure out what the hell Kaiman's deal is. And then he ran away. And now he's just on the run. But he's a little stingy, he's a little suspicious, he's a little darker and grungier than I usually hear from Billy. It's a very familiar voice of Billy, but it's a little bit on the darker, like, ooh, you've got some darkness in your soul. And, of course, he's got a mystery. What the fuck's his deal? But, yeah, Billy does a great job. Tanba! Taylor Henry. I love Taylor Henry. And Tanba's a very pleasant character I was not expecting to like as much as I did. He's an asshole. But he's an asshole that means well. He basically just... Kaiman is some weirdo he meets off the street. And Kaiman was basically gonna go homeless and hungry. And he's like, yo... work at my shop, I'll feed you. Like, he's basically working there for free, and that's why it's kind of, like, a very sweet relationship. Like, he's got tough love on the brain. He's not the most affectionate guy, but he means well, and he genuinely, like, Taylor just has them, like, with this very jovial, like, manly bravado tone of voice to him, where he'll kick your ass a little bit, but... he'll give you a life lesson or two and let you know where he comes from and that he means well. And he hopes you'll find the girl you're looking for and that you have a good life and you enjoy his pies and you don't worry about the money I owe you. You can... don't worry. It's like, hey, I didn't...
really, don't worry about it. I'll just hang on to it for now. Go ahead.
I'll hang on to your cut of the funds. It's fine. I'll do it for you, buddy. It's okay. Like... he's a little bit of a shady shopkeeper, but he makes a good business and he makes a good product. How many of those products are other people, by the way? Because we've established Fukuyama can just turn other people into meat pies on a whim, which... by the way, just because there's no other way to really talk about that, I love the way Dorohedoro basically splices in, like... 3 interconnecting storylines all happening at the same time and just brings all these characters in the same place. Because Kaiman and his meat pie squad, that's what I'm going to call them, the meat pie squad, run into a group of assassins. And that group of assassins were trying to take out Shin and Noi. Because, like, they were basically going to kidnap Shin and kill him. But then, like, they run into Kaiman and he drops his giant gyoza. And then they have a fight and then he kills both of them. He kills one of them, and then the other guy gets turned into a giant meat pie, which gets eaten later by a dog in Ebisu, which gives them diarrhea later. And then, like, meanwhile, Risu is just gathering around this festival while there's commotion going on, and he finds Noi's body, which is basically in this anti-magic container, which sets her free and brings the plot back together. It's like, it's a level of fun character interconnection that, in a weird way, reminds me of, like, Ryogo Naruto stuff. Like Ryogo Naruto in regards to Baku no Durarara. That's kind of a weird tangent, but it reminds me of that. And I think... Okay, back to my original point. Taylor Henry. Gruff. Buff. Will kick your ass. Tough love. Does not care if he's working for free. It's fine. Anyways, I'm done.
Excellent. Where was I going to go with this? Yeah, this is a good set of characters. Taylor Henry, he plays a good shopkeeper. He's a lot of fun. Michael Chapman, he's just a nice, swell guy. I don't know if these characters show up again later. I kind of hope they do, just because they're fun support characters. I hope they return. Todd Havercorn is big and menacing, which I appreciate. Chris Smith is big and not as menacing as you'd expect God to be, which kind of makes sense in Dorohedoro. Of course, God kind of is sort of unimpressive. That checks out. And I like Billy Kavets. He really sells just like Risu as like, yeah, he was just kind of a shitty fifth-rate gang no one cared about, and that was just kind of his life until he got murdered. I feel like that's how a lot of people's lives go in this world. You didn't do a lot, and then you died.
Yeah.
So sad.
Tough luck.
Pretty much.
And you probably had a few friends who'll feel sad, but by and large, the world at large will not care. R.I.P. Anyways, except he's on a robot body now. But anyways, on to our next set of characters. We have more important characters. We're still kind of side characters. We have Kasukabe. Kamikaze is a 64-year-old man who has the face of a boy because of sorcery magic. He's basically a mad scientist. He can make magic doors. He gets up to what generally seems like no good because, I mean, look at him.
He looks like one of those internet ads where it's like, doctors hate him. He's actually so-and-so, but he looks like 20.
Oh, I was actually going to say that anyone in this magic-heavy world who wears a lab coat is absolutely up to no good, and you should either be his friend or stay far, far away.
He looks like someone who did something, but he refuses to say what or where it happened.
Absolutely. He also has a buddy. His name is Johnson. Johnson is a 7-foot-tall cockroach who yells shocking all the time. Which apparently is a very obscure reference to a one-shot that Q Hayashida did before Dorohedoro.
Really?
Or so says the internet. She did one where I think a character was watching a baseball game and their beloved it's the Tigers, who I forget where they're from in Japan, but I think they lose or something, and they just yell. And they express their shock by just yelling shocking.
Oh yeah, also, you just mentioned something I actually forgot about. This is written by a woman, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That explains a couple of things, actually.
That explains nothing.
It explains nothing, but everything at once.
Johnson. He's a cockroach. We have Vox. He is a doctor. He actually specializes in helping people who are victims of magic use by sorcerers. He's basically Kaiman's boss for a good chunk of this. He's not really as well equipped for the whole, fighting thing, but he does okay with himself. And then we have 13. 13 is a regular at the Hungry Bug, which is the restaurant that Nikaido owns. Kaiman is very jealous of him because he's very handsome, and he clearly has kind of a thing for Nikaido, which Nikaido probably doesn't reciprocate, but Kaiman's a little too jealous to acknowledge that. In a normal story, 13 would probably be the hero, but Dorohedoro is not a normal story, so he gets to be a punchline.
13 just walks into the show because he wants to fuck Nikaido, and then he basically just gets jobbed for the entire rest of the show.
Yep.
Which, you know what? That's kind of perfect, to be honest.
jobbed is a good word. There's a lot of professional wrestling in this show that I hadn't thought about. It's got that. It's that same part of that same trash culture the show's writing. But who are voicing these characters, you might ask? Well, let me tell you. Kasukabe is voiced by Griffin Burns, who you know for such roles as Gintana in Anohana, Akira Fuda in Devilman Crybaby, and Doppio in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Wind. Thank you. Johnson is played by Joseph Wims, who you know for such roles as Prime Minister Shiromizu in BNA Brand New Animal, Yoichiro Amiyama in Forest of Piano, and Seichiro Muta in Revisions. Vox is played by Michael Sorich, who you know for such roles as Takahashi in Agent, Shinsuke Tanba in Knights of Sidonia, and Dimple in Mob Psycho 100. And 13 is played by Johnny Young Bosch. Johnny Young Bosch has been...
Never heard of him.
He's you may have heard of him. He's been in a few things here and there, such as Izaya Orihara in Durarara, Haru Yaguchi in High Score Girl, and Sabo in One Piece, and like 8 billion other things, because he's been working for 30 years at this point or something. It's absurd.
He's been around the block.
He's also a piece of delicious. He's a piece of delicious bacon.
Yes,
that's his finest role.
His finest role, chomp bacon.
Yes, and he likes pancakes.
It's true. Jet, would you like to start us off again?
Sure. I'll start with Joseph Wims as Johnson, because he only really has one line. Shocking, but he says that one line really well, and it's really funny. I just kind of I get a kick out of his entire existence. It's like, you don't know why he's there, but it's just very delightful. Johnny Young Bosch is 13. 13 gets introduced kind of late into the show, but Johnny does a really good job of making him seem kind of very casually thirsty for Nikaido. And I think his tone there is kind of funny. It's kind of fun and like a little bit of a dude bro way. And which makes it all the funnier when he just spends the rest of the show getting jobbed for basically existing. like he had almost zero involvement, and he still ends up getting kidnapped with everyone else. I thought that was really funny.
Being 13 is suffering.
He's the unlucky number.
That's true, he is, isn't he? I hadn't thought about that.
I thought Johnny was a lot of fun here. Michael Sorich as Vox. This is a very Michael Sorich character in that he comes off as very gruff and kind of like maybe a little scummy, but he has a bit. But he has a good. But he's like pretty good natured deep down, and like you can tell he's looking out for Kaiman, even if he isn't like particularly nice about it. I think that Michael gets that across really well. I also kind of like how well he kind of bounces off the other characters. Like, I like Shin in particular. Like when we learn a little bit more about Shin's history and then they meet up again. I think he does a really good job of like sounding concerned, but more in like a very tired way. Like, come on, you don't really need to be involving yourself in this. Like, it's exhausting. Just don't do it. And I think that Michael gets that across really well, and he's a lot of fun. And then Griffin Burns as Yukasabe, who is also introduced a little late, but he's a lot of fun. He's a very odd man, and definitely a mad scientist. And then Griffin does a really good job of just kind of making him sound like, where he sounds quote-unquote nice, but there is just something a little unhinged about him. I think that like Griffin gets that across really well. I think my favorite bit is like when he does the whole thing of like saving Jin and his backstory, and then he meet up again, and Jin's like really grateful. And then Jin asks him like, man, do you just really like going out of your way to help people? And then he's like, well, yeah, actually, not really. All I care about is research. Yeah, so I thought that whole thing was pretty fun. I also just got a really whole good bit about how he just kind of gradually breaks out of prison, and then how like many of the other characters in this show, he will definitely not hesitate to shoot if someone gets in his way. And this is the images of this weird guy holding someone at gunpoint was really hilarious. So that was a good kick. And I definitely enjoyed all of these characters.
All right. Hardy.
Yes, Johnson says shocking, but And that's basically his only line, but he also provides a lot of the weird, visceral sound effects that Johnson is responsible for. So, and people really take that kind of thing for granted because it can be just as grueling on the voice as actual voice acting can be. So, yeah. From what I heard, those little those are done like 20 times for every
yeah. You don't get to do it once and loop it. You need to do it every single time it happens.
Yeah. Walla is not an easy job, but I mean, basically Frank Welker has made his entire existence, his living off of doing stuff like that. If you want to go back and watch the behind the scenes videos of The Lion King, where he's basically roaring into a giant tin bowl.
Sound design is a thankless but integral part of the sound design production.
Yeah, and so Johnson is a character with his 7 foot tall cockroach and his one sneaker.
Oh yeah, he's just got one sneaker.
Right. Well, I mean, he is a thing in the show, so kudos to that. 13 is the butt monkey. I only remember him for 1, being turned into a mushroom, and 2, getting toothpicks shoved into his face from the Gyoza fairy. Which, can we talk about the Gyoza fairy just a little bit?
You know what? We can talk
sure,
about the
ahead.
Gyoza fairy.
Yes, because that is pure Ben Diskin right there. If you had to point to a roll and say, give me a hammy Ben Diskin roll. Gyoza!
It's just so strange where he's just like, he wants people to really appreciate the love and craft that goes into gyoza, and then he just fucking, like, stabs everybody who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Stop trying to flirt with this bitch. Eat your food, fucker. Eat it.
Yeah. But yeah, no. I mean, I guess 13 is sort of just the butt monkey of the show, and he doesn't really make an impression, but Johnny plays him okay, I suppose. Michael Sorick as Vox. I liked him a lot. You know, he's the no-nonsense kind of guy who he's just trying to keep everyone alive, but at the same time, he's just trying to keep himself out of danger and just kind of want to take care of himself, but also kind of want to take care of everyone else at the same time. Sort of like the grumpy dad of the group, and that's the kind of role that Sorick has played a lot in his career, and he's really good at it. Griffin Burns as Kasukabe, like I said, he gives off the impression, you know, he did something wrong, but he won't say what it is, and he won't say where it happened. He's sort of got this...
And there's a good chance he doesn't even really acknowledge that it was wrong in the first place.
Yeah. No, there's this stock image of this baby that is simply called Koi Smile, where it's this little baby looking directly at the camera, and he's got this, like, smile on his face, like, I did something. I'm not going to tell you what I did. But, and that basically is the description of Kasukabe as a character. But, I like how Griffin plays into her, like, I can do that for you, but I don't think you're going to like it. Yeah. So he was a fun character to listen to.
All right. Oh, you're done, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
Cool. Andrew.
It says a lot that there is just a giant freaky bug man in this universe. Not only is he just a one-off, like, villain, he effectively gets kidnapped by Kasukabe, and he starts controlling him through shock therapy. And then they decide the first time this comes up again is because they need an extra player on their baseball team. Yeah.
That is Dorohedoro.
There's just a giant 7-foot cockroach man, and they decide to take him out of the closet because, hey, we need a new baseball guy. Sure. What's he gonna do? It's not cheating if he's got 6 arms, right? Can he... Actually, you think that that's actually like a plus, where it's like, okay, he can't catch the ball, but he makes up for it in his running speed. It must be like it must be like tiered like a fucking Mario Kart game or something like that, where it's like his speed is great, but his handling is shit.
You are putting far too much thought into this. No, it's the stupidest answer. That's the correct one.
The stupidest answer is, what if we have a bug play sports?
There's nothing in the rulebook that says a 7-foot cockroach can't play baseball.
This is true. This is true. Anyways, Joseph Lim is shocking. And yeah, no, it's a very underappreciated aspect, but he makes a lot of really fun, gross-sounding, creepy cockroach noises. And he does a very good job. What is this? Oh god, Hardy just posted the fucking picture, and... Yep!
Oh, that child's been up to nothing productive or good.
You know what, just because I'm thinking about it right now, let's move on to Kusakabe. Kusakabe looks like the... Okay, how do I describe Kusakabe? Kusakabe in any other show would be an Izaya Orihara, where he'd be a master planner, where he's got some sort of, like... He's got at least a couple of skeletons, a couple of massacres, and maybe one human experimentation. No, actually, this dude's probably got like 20 plus human experimentations. But he's not even a bad guy. He's just the kooky doctor. He's just the kooky doctor who looks like he would be like a high school Hot Topic employee.
Hey, you're not wrong.
Like, come on! If you saw this kid in real life, you would go to the mall and he would be telling you about the new My Chemical Romance CD that came out while showing you how many piercings he's got.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I saw this kid on, like, the last train out of Boston on the Green Line once, so yeah.
It's like, exactly, this is like some teenage kid who's discovering all, like, he's not even discovering, like, he's discovering the metal screamo stuff. That's what he looks like. And Griffin plays him like such a sweet little boy. Like, he's just a very friendly, hello, friends. I hope you're having a swell day. He plays with it with such light brevity to his tone of voice, and he's just a lot of fun. But he's also probably kind of a monster. And he's like, hey... Because, like, you first see his interaction with Shin, and Shin was basically just a poor kid that got fucked by the system and was forced to be, like, a murderer on the run. And it's just like, oh, hey, you're missing all of your arms. You need a hand with that?
Boo.
I wasn't even trying to make a pun, but this guy would totally make a pun. It's being like, hey, can you pick your nose like that? No. Yeah, let me help you with that. He's just kind of an asshole who means well. But Griffin plays him with this such calming, like, friendly charisma, and I love it. I'll move on to Johnny Young Bosch next as 13, where 13 sucks, and like, the show knows he sucks. Like, Kaiman is the only dude who would be insecure by him, because 13 kind of looks like what a human Kaiman would be. Like, he is the Kaiman he thinks people want. Like this kind of like smug, somewhat bishy shark-toothed boy who's a little bit handsome, but nobody gives a shit about him. Nobody wants him. I see nobody that's lusting anything about 13. 13 sucks. 13's a fuckboy. 13 would try and cheap you out on a 13 would cheap you out on a dinner date. Kaiman's the whole package. He's handsome, he's buff, he's sexy, he's got a great ass, a great personality, and he would go for the expensive appetizers for you. He's that much of a gentleman.
Andrew, you just said a whole lot about yourself that I didn't think I ever wanted to know.
Also, Andrew, let's be real here. Kaiman does not have taste. He would take you to the Hungry Bug and order you lots of gyoza. Let's be real.
He doesn't have taste, but he would gladly give you the good stuff. He wouldn't worry about the fancy dinner. He'd get the girl what she wants, and what she wants is to pig the fuck out and treat herself, and he'll treat her right.
Okay.
Kaiman's a murderer, but he's got a heart of gold. He's a great friend. He's got a great personality. And yeah, no, he's thick as hell. What about it?
Are you finished?
Johnny Young Bosch does a good job as 13. 13 sucks. Okay, I should probably talk about Michael Sorek. Michael Sorek's great. Like, I don't get to talk about Michael Sorkin enough, but I adored his dimple, which was kind of like this villainous asshole who's a little antagonistic and just kind of becomes a friendly ally to his friends in need. And that's kind of what Vox is, where he's just kind of a doctor who's living his day-to-day life the best he can. He's a little bit of an asshole, but when you're dealing with as many like horrific atrocities on the day-to-day, you're like, it's whatever. He's kind of an asshole, but he really cares about Kaiman and his crew, and he's a good dude. He's just trying to make his best, and he's got this very casual, like, tone of voice where it's like, same shit, different day, whatever. Kaiman, just get the fuck, clean those bodies up, whatever. It's fine. But yeah, Michael Sork's got a very cool tone of voice. And he's just a very friendly... He's a friendly dude who means well, even though he's a little bit of an asshole. A lot of Kaiman's authoritative figures are these asshole dads who... in any other show would kind of be shitty dads, but they're actually very good dads to him. Vox and Tanba are basically dad figures to him. And they're okay dad figures. Especially, they're great dad figures in the world of Dorohedoro.
Boy,
where the bar is not really nailed to the ground, but is in fact underneath the ground.
They are at least firmly planted in the ground. That's where the bar is for them. They're not in the ground, but they're at least firmly planted in the ground. Anyways, I'm done. This was an interesting tangent. Okay.
Indeed. Where to start? Joseph Wims as Johnson. Hilarious. I love it. I find Johnson very entertaining. And he commits to those yells and grunts, so good on him for that. Griffin Burns, I like a lot as Kasukabe. He sounds so innocuous. Like, Kasukabe feels like the kind of guy who does bad stuff, but it probably doesn't occur to him that it's that bad, or if it does, it's kind of like, well, sorry. I thought that would go better for you, but it didn't. There's like a weird, almost... The thing with Dorohedoro is, like, it's very violent and grueling, and, like, half the characters have, like, these, like, just adorable button cute faces all the time. And that feels very true with Kasukabe, who is clearly up to nothing good, but he looks so nice. How can he be bad? Michael Sork, I like a lot as Vox. He's just good at being, like, very, like, gruff and kind of perpetually irritated. But, like, he's a solid dude. He just lives in the hole, which makes everyone a crappy person, because, well, look at it.
Yeah.
Zombies rise from the dead once a year. They'll do things to you.
That's what happens. Also, happy belated Halloween.
Exactly. It's November 1st today, kids. And I just find Johnny very funny as 13, because 13 would be the protagonist of a more normal story, but this is not a normal story, so he's just this walking punchline who is suffering.
It's like he thinks he's cool, but he's actually the lamest it's ever been. In Gurren Lagann, the guy who becomes a dictator in the back half of the series. Rossio has a lot of perfectly sensible ideas that are all undone by the fact that he lives in Gurren Lagann land, which doesn't operate on that form of logic. 13 also has reasonably okay ideas, but he lives in Dorohedoro land, which does not work on that form of logic. He's in the wrong show and he doesn't know that, and so his life is hell.
Mm-hmm.
Sad to be him. And I think Johnny plays him very well.
Yeah.
Anywho, let's go on to our next set of characters. We're going to be talking about various members of the N family. Because, of course, there are magical mob families in this world.
Yeah, I love how
Why
these
wouldn't there
are,
be?
like, I love how these are technically our villains, but not really.
They are...
Villain. I mean...
Are they? They are...
If you ever wanted a good description of, like, the difference between, like, a villain and an antagonist, I think, weirdly, like, this is a good example of, like, they are the antagonists.
They are the opposing force?
They're more villains conceptually than by anything they actually do. Except maybe N. N's a real piece of work, but beyond that, not really.
Mm. Well, N has his reasons if you watch
That's
his
true.
Origins episode. So,
Yeah,
which his Origins episode is just a movie he made.
which may or may not all be technically true.
Oh, yes. So we have N to start us off with. We have N. He is a mob boss. His magic power is he can turn people and things into mushrooms. Sometimes he'll eat those mushrooms. He doesn't really have a problem with that. Waste not, want not. He's just kind of preposterous in general. I was rewatching the episode where there's just a bit where he's like buying this flying motorcycle that also doubles as a vacuum cleaner. And it's just like, this makes sense. This is great.
Sure.
Hey, Shin, look at this. My company's going to be putting this out next week. Isn't it great?
Like, N is basically like a magic superpowered Lex Luthor type character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to actually compare him to real billionaires because I'm sort of something eat the rich nowadays, but that's another story for another time. So I'll compare it to Lex Luthor, who's kind of similar.
Ed's more likable than Lex Luthor, weirdly enough.
Oh yeah, no, because he loves his puppy.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We also have Chota. Chota is one of N's lackeys. He wears a bird mask. He is just he's a big old crush on N. Which N not only does not reciprocate, I'm not sure he's even aware of it, frankly, because N's also kind of just a huge screaming narcissist.
Chota's basically the gimp.
Well, technically, by going by their masks, Noi's the gimp, but we'll get to that.
Okay, he's like a bird in a cage, but a gimp.
All right.
Kind of like that Robin Williams movie, I guess.
Sure. Sure.
Get your culture here tonight on the dubtalkpodcast, kids. Yeah, he's one of N's goons. At the end of the season, he gets turned into a version of Nikaido to help Nikaido escape.
And he's not very happy about that.
He's like, yo, this rules.
Well, he's not that into being turned into Kaido, but it means he gets to pal around with N a bunch, and he's perfectly okay with that happening under any pretext whatsoever. So that he's okay with.
No, I love how his first thing is like, okay, I'm gonna ruin the kind of reputation, and Naruto's like, no, you won't.
No, stop that. We also have Kikerage. Kikerage is N's dog thing. He's very into Kikurage. He made Kikurage a mask. This is how you can tell that N is a delusional rich person. He cares more about his dog than most people.
Yeah. Like,
that's your typical rich person,
Yeah, it's like, here's the thing. I don't think he likes most people, but he respects his squad enough to include them in things.
I will not turn you into a mushroom.
I like you enough, I won't kill you and eat you today.
All you have to do is put on this ridiculous outfit and dance around the campfire.
Exactly.
Pretty much, yeah.
Also, don't skip the OVA episode. It's very worth your time. And we also have two of his lackeys. We have Fujita and Ebisu. Fujita... we actually start off with we start the show off with Fujita and a buddy of his trying to fight Kaiman and Nikaido, and his buddy gets ganked, and this is kind of how all this starts. He's kind of a loser. He's clearly not very high on the totem pole. He wears a mask that is supposed to be a Tengu, but all I can see is he just looks like Randy from The Residence, which I don't think is intentional, but it's a weird visual image nonetheless. And Ebisu is another sorceress. She uses lizard magic. She has this neat mask shaped like a skull. And she only really has one problem, which is that in the first episode, Kaimon tries to get the man in his throat to look at her, and Fujita, while trying to rescue her, accidentally yanks her out while she's still in Kaiman's mouth, and she kind of gets her face ripped off.
She got better, though. She got better.
I mean, Noe fixed her face.
Define better.
Noe fixed her face, but she is also clearly suffering from severe, probably brain damage for the rest of the show.
Yep.
Maybe that's permanent. Nicholas Dupree from ANN, I think, had a very good description. He calls Noe, she's like if Gur from Invader Zim were my sleep paralysis demon. And like,
God!
yeah.
You're Oh my god!
Yeah, you're correct, Nicholas Dupree. That is extremely on point. Very good.
Oh god, I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking of the Irmakun episode where I kind of compared like Claire to Gur. No, this is actually very Gur. You're right.
And apparently, Q Hayashida has said that she is a fan of a lot of Western media, so that may in fact be like a direct one-to-one influence in this instance.
So what you're saying is Ebisu is Gur without any of the Nickelodeon broadcast censors, and it's...
I mean, they both wear random kigurumis at one point, you know.
Oh god, I love her fucking shark outfit. It's so cute.
I know. Anyways, who plays these characters? Playing N, we have Keith Silverstein, who you know for a lot of things, including Koji Tanaka in Agent, Robert E.O. Speedwagon in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I'm sorry, I need to pause a minute to laugh. We'll keep on loving you, folks. And he plays Johann Liebert in Monster.
Yep.
Chota is played by Doug Erholtz, who you know for such roles as Kyneth Elmoy Archibald in Fate Zero, Jean-Pierre Polnareff in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and he plays Zenigata in most of the recent Lupin dubs. Kikurage is played by Cassandra Morris, who you know for playing roles such as Mari in The Great Pretender, Morgana in Persona 5, and Kyubei in Puella Magi Madoka Magica. Fujita is played by Bryce Papenbrook, who you know for lots of things, including Kaito in Agent, Fusata in Blame, and Inosuke in Demon Slayer.
Blame?
And Ebisu... Look,
Blame.
I know it's spelled
blame.
but it's supposed to be. It's clearly supposed to be. Actually, it's probably supposed to be Blamu, which is the sound a gun makes.
It's
I'm
blam.
But they don't know how to.
It's blam.
I know it's supposed to be Blam.
Okay.
But they Romanized it incorrectly, basically in Japan.
The more
Anyways, I know. And Ebisu is played by Christina Veit, who you know for playing Sheila in Beastars, Miki Makimura in Devilman Crybaby, and she is Sailor Mars in Viz's Sailor Moon dubs. Jet, would you like to start us off again?
Sure. So Cassandra Lee Morris is Kikerage. She mostly just makes like a bunch of weird dog noises, but she does a really good job of that again. I mean, again, making noises like that can be a lot of a harder skill than people give credit for, and she does a really good job at that. Doug Erholtz as Chota is a lot of fun. In another show, this character would be incredibly annoying because, like, he speaks with, like, this very stereotypical gay lisp, and he's, like, very clearly cartoony over the top, and that would be annoying in another instance, but he just feels very right at home in this show. He just has, like, the right level of camp, and I just found, like, all of his dialogue hilarious. I really like the way he plays off of a lot of the other characters and all his interactions with Ed, where he's clearly very into Ed, but Ed isn't having any of that either because like Ed is like weirded out or Ed just like doesn't care because Ed is just far too full of himself to really notice that sort of thing. And I found that sort of thing pretty funny. I just kind of like all those little bits where he's alone by himself, just kind of like cursing the Kaido, and then he's like really happy when his prayers supposedly get answered. I thought that whole bit was really funny. and then it's towards the end where he gets turned into the Kaido and he's initially not very happy about it, though he thinks he can use it to his advantage. And I thought that was pretty funny. And Doug Erholtz is just like a real delight here. And Keith Silverstein is Ed. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be a Spice Bread dub without Keith Silverstein in there somewhere, because I'm pretty sure he has been in, like, literally every single Spice Bread dub. There's maybe one he hasn't been in, but I'm pretty sure he's been in, like, almost all of them. But hey, Keith Silverstein is a very reliable actor. He's very good at what he does, and he's a lot of fun here. He does a really good job of this kind of, like, very arrogant mob boss. And he does a good job of like making Ed sound very authoritative and this guy's in charge. You don't cross the boss. He's like, and it's very clear that if you cross him, you will probably get turned into a mushroom. And I also like his delivery when like you get the whole deal with his backstory and like how rough he had as a childhood. His whole childhood really was kind of messed up in a sense, but I mean, I guess he made the most of the situation. He got his own family, even if, and he is very clearly looking out for them in his own way, even if he is, again, pretty full of himself. And again, I do like the whole punchline that his whole backstory was sold to a movie that may or may not have been exaggerated, and we'll probably never know the truth, which is pretty funny in its own way.
Did he really survive in hell for 2 years eating mushrooms to survive? Maybe, maybe not. Who the fuck knows? It could happen. It's fucking Dorohedoro. Don't fucking ask questions. Shut the fuck up.
So he's like reasonable to his subordinates, and I think he gets that across really well. But at the same time, he's also a guy who clearly knows what he wants and will do whatever it takes to get what he wants. And I think Keith gets that across pretty well too, especially when he like basically kidnaps Nikaido, which was like I was pretty okay with Adam until that point, but that was the only point where I was like, okay, like yeah, this is the mean mob boss man. Like you get away from Nikaido. So I thought Keith was a lot of fun here. So again, this is like a very typical Keith villain role, but Keith is very good at playing villains, so I'm glad to cast him here. So Bryce Papenbrook is Fujita. Bryce Papenbrook is generally known today for playing a lot of very loud or angry shonen leads, and he's pretty good at that. But back in the day, he was also known for playing a lot of dorky teenagers, and him being cast as Fujita kind of feels like a proper return to form for him. Fujita's basic existence is suffering, and as the show starts off with him literally watching his best friend get eaten by a guy with a wizard head, and things really don't get much better for him from there. Whether it's Anne, Shin, or generally just Emisu, he's kind of ripped at basically every opportunity, and Bryce does a really good job of selling how much suffering this poor guy is going through, as he's just kind of the show's perpetual butt monkey. But at the same time, Bryce's experience in playing shonen leads also kind of helps to make Fujita sound pretty endearing, because out of everyone in the cast, he's probably the only one who would generally qualify as a good person. And while Bryce doesn't make him sound like outright heroic or anything, he does make him sound like a nice guy who's just kind of, doing his best to survive all this madness, and you kind of want to root for him to succeed. You kind of have to wonder what this guy is doing in the mob anyway, but like, either way you go, Fujita, I'm rooting for you, son.
Fujita, in any other show perspective, he probably would be a main character.
He's just on the wrong show.
He's just in the wrong show.
He needs to team up with 13. They can both be butt monkeys together.
Oh, he's at least cooler than 13. Come on.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. The show likes Fujita and just likes hassling him. The show thinks 13 is just a loser.
13 will get... This show will give 13 a wedgie and steal his lunch money while calling him a nerd.
Yeah. And lastly, Christina V is Emisu. So Emisu is this very strange girl, even by this show standards, and again, I'm pretty sure she's been suffering from literal brain damage since the end of episode 1. But God's sake, she's an adorable little gremlin, and Christina V does a really great job on her. Christina V is certainly no stranger to playing young girls, and she's done her fair share of moe in her heyday. I mean, she was literally in the K-On! Dub. But Emisu is definitely nothing like that, and she's just kind of this weird kid who spouts a bunch of crazy lines in the background, and busts Fujita's challenge for basically existing. And Christina gets her perpetual chaotic energy across really well, perfect, and it's a lot of fun. Again, in the wrong hands, Emisu could have been like really annoying, and she's kind of similar to Clara from Iramakun, and then again, she does seem like she kind of character a lot of folks who are into her from Invader Zim would love. But Christina definitely strikes the right balance between making her weird and obnoxious, but also making her come off as a pretty believable kid and making her, sound pretty sweet every now and then, like when she tries her hardest to become Fujita's partner and then kind of fails because he takes too long in the bathroom.
Which, by the way, that was actually a really cute scene where it's like, oh, you had one application and it was her, and you can see she's so embarrassed, like, oh, damn it, no, that's cute. And then diarrhea happened.
That's such a beautiful punchline. And then I like that whole bit in the OVA where she's just like where she's trying to get her photo taken and it's not taking her seriously. I thought that whole thing was really cute. It's like, but you get to the best that she's trying her best beneath all that madness, and she's a pretty decent kid, even if she almost was certainly the one who probably cursed Kaiman. Like, the show is not subtle about that. We don't know why she did it, but she's definitely the one who did it.
It's her. Okay, you don't know if she did it, but it was her magic that did it. Cause you
Okay. I mean, it literally comes out before they definitively say she was the one, so you know it probably was her.
Okay, who knows? Anyways, continue.
Anyway, it's a pretty fun performance, and while it's a little different from what Christina is generally known for, since the two happened, quite heard from her aside from maybe Hawk from Seven Deadly Sins, she was a lot of fun.
Okay.
All right. Hardy?
Yeah, let me pull up the list real quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let's see here. Kikurage is literal dog sounds. Literal dog sounds mixed with literal cat sounds. That's pretty much it. And seeing as how she played everyone's favorite character who is totally not a cat in Persona 5, Cassandra was able to do that pretty well. Chota, I think in any other circumstance, might be viewed in a very negative sense because he is very much the stereotypical homosexual type of character. But because this is Dorohedoro, it just sort of mixes with it and just makes it work. And I don't think I've ever heard Doug Hurls actually sound like this ever. This was a complete shock to me when I found out who was playing it. But yeah, Chota's a lot of fun to listen to. Fujita is suffering. He's suffering incarnate, and you kind of just want to. You do kind of want to root for him, but watching him suffer is kind of funny sometimes. Not gonna lie. Ebisu has lost her mind. I guess that if you got your face ripped off, that would happen, I would suppose. Mm-hmm. I've heard Christina play these sort of silly characters, and she's just having an absolute blast in the booth playing this complete, utter gremlin. And she's just adorable. Let's talk about Keith Silverstein. Because when you need a megalomaniacal villain, who do you turn to but Keith Silverstein? He is, of course, Johann Liebert from Monster. But he's also been the villain in both the My Hero Academia and One Piece movies.
Oh yeah, I forgot. He was in both.
Yeah. Who else? He's been a villain in a bunch of different shows.
He's Hisoka in Hunter x Hunter.
Exactly, that's right. And so yeah, here again, he's definitely the main antagonist. He's definitely evil, but he's the fun kind of evil, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it does.
Yeah. He's the type who would put lasers on top of freaking sharks' heads.
Just because he thought it looked cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the ironic thing about In is that, in his case, he would take the phrase, eat the rich, literally.
Yes, he would.
It's true.
He would eat the rich, and he would make a goddamn good mushroom bisque.
Yes. And so one of my favorite scenes is near the end where, what Tanba makes him his own special mushroom pie, and he takes one bite of it and goes, "Oh, you win the contest." And he's like, everyone's like, "It's that superficial?"
Yeah. It's basically, okay, you made this to my exact taste, you're good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, In's a piece of crap, but he's a fun piece of crap, and even though I hope he gets his comeuppance soon, I hope we have fun watching him do it. So.
N is much like an actual mushroom. He can be dangerous, but he can also be very tasty if you know how to cook him right.
He's a fun guy.
Fuck!
How long have you had that one sitting under your hat, Hardy?
You know what? I didn't have it until Andrew. I was suspecting Andrew was going to make it, so.
I was.
That's even better.
I never even considered it. Fuck.
That's all for me.
Andrew, would you like to take the reins?
Give me a sec.
All right.
I think we found our clip, guys.
Oh, fuck you, shit. Okay. Ugh. Alright, who wants Spore?
That was awful.
Yes, it was, but that means I'm ready to take the reins. Okay, so let us start with. I'll start with Kikurage because Cassandra Morris is adorable and she's a good little chaos pupper. Which, okay, what was Kikurage's actual power again?
I don't remember anymore.
It could resurrect people.
That's right.
Okay, it could resurrect the dead. I forgot. Yeah. That's why it was so sought after. Okay, yeah, no. Kikurage is just adorable. And I love like when Kikurage shows up in the endings and it's just swiping at the little bugs. It's just very cute, which I love how all the endings in the show are different endings, and then at the very end they straight up remix all of them into a new ending. No Name got paid
like a literal GoldenEye parody.
No, it's no. It's not GoldenEye. It's Doom.
It's Doom.
It's Doom. It's straight up just N playing Mushroom Doom. Like, the endings of this are so strange, but it works. And No Name as a band got a nice check working on the show. I think they did all the music too.
They definitely did all the openings, and they might have done all the music. It sounds like it could be them.
But they definitely did all the openings and endings, so good for.
Oh yeah,
like you could have a whole album. What was I going off? Kikurage is cute, adorable pupper. Woof 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 woof. You should go to bed. I'll actually be a little bit of a dissenter on Chota. I think Doug Erholtz, this is a really fascinating like performance, and I think it's interesting that he's doing it. Maybe I'm a little more critical of Chota. Like, I will give some of this that this is an earlier manga, but Chota feels a little more of a less positive gay stereotype than I think I would have expected from something like Dorohedoro. Some of that might be a little bit clouded by the fact that Dorohedoro is strange in that I've basically seen it pretty much full-on adopted by the LGBT plus community as a whole. And I never see anything about this character come up from those people, and I think I know why. It just seems like a little bit more of a dated, like, jealous gay stereotype than I think I was expecting from this show. I think it's crazy and it's fun and it does kind of work, but it's a little bit more dated than I think I was expecting.
I can see what you're bringing up. It just, it definitely does feel dated, but it felt like just over the top enough that it wasn't like super distracting to me.
I guess that's fair. I guess that's fair.
I don't think you're incorrect. I think Chota is the place where you can see the fact that this is a 20-year-old series, even though I think it feels very contemporary, but it's not actually.
Like, most of it could be still modern day. I think Chota as a character concept is kind of where I think it shows a little bit of its age, and I just wanted to mention that. That said, Doug Erholtz does a really, like, incredibly high-pitched, like, voice. I was like, who the fuck plays him? And I would never have guessed Doug Erholtz. He does a very good job in that regard. Keith Silverstein as N, though. Just... God, Keith Silverstein is just a ton of fun. He's menacing. He's sophisticated. He's menacing. He's very threatening. He's also kind of a dork at times because he's just got all this money and he's like, yeah, no, like, sure, robot vacuum cleaner. Why the fuck not? Let's put a brand on it. Hey, we're gonna have a nice party. You get a nice suit. No exceptions. Aw, Kikuraki, how are you doing, little friend? Aw, aren't you looking cute in your little mask? It's like, it's literally just like, okay. He likes his squad. He likes his fam. He doesn't care for most people, but he loves Kikuraki, and it's so cute. It's like, oh, Kikuraki. I love just him being so cute with Kikuraki. It's like, oh, damn it, you are that level of rich where it's like, oh, you like the puppers. There are good villains who like the puppers. If you're a villain who hates the puppers or kills the pupper, you're probably a piece of goddamn garbage. So N's not a piece of garbage, but he will eat garbage and turn it into fine quality mushrooms. But yeah, no, Key Silverstein's just got a very, like, sophisticated, intimidating voice, but he's also kind of goofy when he wants to be, and I think he really encapsulates all the right qualities for N and accentuates it exceptionally. Christina V as Ebisu is just... God, Gur really is, like, the most on-brand comparison I can make for Ebisu. It's just that level of, like, manic, dark craziness. And it's just... Christina's just adorable as Ebisu. Just the cutest little crazy gremlin child. Like, this is... Like, here's the thing. I think Chota is a level of crazy that does work for Dorohedoro, but shows its age in a little bit of a less flattering homosexual stereotype. Ebisu is timeless. Ebisu is timeless any era. Just that level of crazy little demon child, just living her best life, trying to make little quips, trying to live her best. Sometimes she'll eat a meat pie off the ground and get diarrhea. Sometimes she'll order her dress to have bigger tits than Noe because she wants to have bigger tits than Noe. Just big old flapping honkaroos just etched into her dress, and she's just like, ah, yeah, I'm sexy. I'm like, sweetheart. Sweetheart, why? I saw that, I'm like, oh, I can't believe you're doing this. Also, in the OVA, because in the OVA, the whole demon ritual is, the devil, worship ritual is just like, hey, you get a male and female partner, you make them dance with you, otherwise demons stab you in the ass. And she's like, how do you make a man dance with you? And she just takes her shirt off. It's like, you show them your boobies. I'm like, oh, sweetheart, no. Sweetheart, no. And God, she is just the cutest little psycho when she is just... I love when she's dressed up as the shark mascot during the baseball game, and she's just a really cute little, like, yes girl. Rah, 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 you can do it. Do your best, do your best. She's a good left shark. She's a good left shark.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, Christina V's just got that crazy, manic little goober energy that's just the perfect level of chaos. And she's adorable too when she wants to be, and I really like that. Bryce Papenbrook as Fujita, you're right. Bryce Papenbrook can be the cool guy. Bryce Papenbrook can be the hero. Bryce Papenbrook can be the edgelord. But there's an unsung, underappreciated art that is Bright Papenbrook, the fucking loser. And this is a loser that is doing his best. He's a good kid. He's got good friends. He's got supportive friends, even though they'll bust his balls. He's just doing his best. He also just wants to revive his buddy Matsumura, because he ends up in the baseball game because he wants to avenge Matsumura. And then he finds Matsumura because as an extra player, it's like, hey, we just have a zombie. That's that guy and a bunch of corpse parts that we're just making him play baseball, because what else are we going to do with him? What else are we going to use the zombie and the goddamn cockroach man? Like, what else can you do but baseball? Of course. That's just Dorohedoro. Bryce is just this very earnest little doofus who's actually kind of got an emotional center at time. You can tell he's actually outwardly, like, not okay with Noi being En's partner. Like, not because he's worried about her, because it's like, this girl killed my friend and tried to kill you. How dare you have her around and pretend it's okay? Like, here's the thing, Fujita's a loser. He can talk back to N now. Like, he talks back to N and will sometimes question him. And N's not going to be like, fuck you, mushroom. It's just like, nah, I do it my way. Whatever. I hear you, but I'm doing it my way. And I respect that. And yeah, like, most of these characters aren't really bad people. Except for maybe N, who does kidnap Nikaido and makes her sign a contract without her consent, which... Partnerships are a two-way street. Partnerships should be mutual. Make sure you respect that. But Bryce Papenbrook as the goddamn loser Fujita is just a great fun time. He's fun.
Excellent. Where are my notes? Oh, yes, and I did look up. No Name did all do the regular music for the show in addition to the openings and endings.
Okay, I thought so.
Anyways, where to start? Cassandra Morris she's a funny dog. I like the funny dog. The funny dog was very entertaining.
Woof woof.
I like the bit in the opening where she chases around Minnie Johnson before you even know who either of these characters are.
You said Minnie Johnson.
I did,
Come
didn't
on.
I? It goes from Minnie Johnson to Giant Size Johnson.
Ooh,
Oh,
the 7-foot
God.
Johnson.
Oh God, a 7-foot. Okay, a 7-foot Johnson. That would destroy them.
I had a point. Chota. Chota kind of flirts into being a little much of a Gare stereotype. I did find him very entertaining. I kind of want to wait until I see where he goes in the show, because I feel like if he persists as this, we'd hear about it more often, but I don't know. That said, I do find Doug very entertaining as him. I think he plays the character correctly for what the character demands, and I'm certainly amused by it. But I like Bryce's Fujita, as we said, just like he plays this loser real well, and it's a lot of fun. Christina V is clearly having a blast as Evisu, just playing just the most cracked out, just deranged child who, whatever senses she used to have are gone. It's just id these days. I think she turns into a velociraptor and eats someone at one point. It's wild. And Keith is really good as N. Like, Keith is always good at playing kind of like, sort of classy, sophisticated sounding villains, and it's fun hearing him take that and apply it to a character like N, who is classy and sophisticated in a certain way, and is also completely ludicrous, because it's Dorohedoro, and even the nominally serious things are kind of silly and weird and off-kilter. They're great. I love them. Fantastic. And now let's get down to one of the main pairs of this show, because there are two of them. We're going to cover both. We're looking at the cleaners of the N family. We're looking at Shin and Noe. Shin used to not have a lot of magic powers, and then he had a lot of very extensive surgery to have magic powers, which left his arms dead, but then his arms got better, which is why he's all sewn up in his fingers. He has a hammer and a mask shaped like a heart, which he always wears backwards. I'm assuming it's because he maybe he does not see himself as N's pawn or something like that, because on the other side it's got like the mouth emblem that N has all his lackeys wear.
But I didn't even think of that. Yeah,
and I'm sure we'll find the actual reason soon, but that was kind of the one that just popped in my head. And he also has he's very fastidious. He's more so the brains of the operation. And then we have Noe.
Oh my God, Noe.
The internet is horny for Noe because she's a giant muscular lady who has a very nice personality and can absolutely snap you in half if she if that's what it requires. Mm-hmm. She's big, she's impressive. Her mask makes her look like one of the Cenobites from Hellraiser, which, yeah, of course, Kuya Shada likes Hellraiser. That makes the most sense in the goddamn world.
Like, she will break you on request. She will do things. She's also just a sweetheart and actually kind of super innocent, despite the fact that she's like a 300-pound like Amazon of a woman that can kick your ass.
Well, when she first sees Nikaido, like, she's supposed to kill her, and Nikaido, like, kicks her in the stomach, and it actually hurts. And she's like, oh, do you want to be friends? Oh, wait, shoot, I have to kill you. We can't be friends.
Yeah, she's so sweet. It's like, oh, cool, I like you. Oh, I have to kill you.
The ironic thing is that her powers are healing, so she could snap you apart and put you back together again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember the specific gag I heard is that the reason she is so muscular is partially because her magic is healing.
Yep. she could just beat people up and be better at the end of it. You
also find out she actually did devil training at some point, and she just, for like a year or two, just wore nothing but like 300-pound suit of armor.
That'll do it. But who do we have playing these characters? Shin is being played by Sean Chiplock, for such roles as Daoi Han in The God of High School, Mista in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind, and Subaru Natsuki in Re:Zero. And Nui is being played by Jeremy Lee, for playing Kozu Matsumoto in Baki, Michiru Kagimori in BNA Brand New Animal, and Tomei Kurata in Mob Psycho 100. Jet, do you want to start us off again?
Sure. So I've heard a few of Sean Hiplock's roles over the years. I'm most used to him as Misa in Golden Wind, and his performance is pretty similar in tone to that. So I see why they probably casted him here. Well, a lot of the psycho murders in this show are kind of like laid back whenever they aren't like chopping people's heads off. Shin comes off as the kind of guy who really sees his whole enforcing like a 9 to 5 job. Like, he's pretty reasonable most of the time, and John gives him a pretty calm and reserved attitude. But if you, as well as you know, it's kind of making him sound very disgruntled whenever he has to like pretend to put on an act for the boss, where it's like, oh man, I gotta like wear a suit, and he's just like really not happy about it. But if you set him off by acting dumb or just like doing anything to annoy in his presence, the mask comes off, or well, on in this
Metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, and he'll happily slaughter anyone in his way. And I like how offensively Sean sees John's performance to kind of flip from sounding relatively normal to just outright psychotic on a dime, and it's a lot of fun. I also dug his performance when we got a little bit of Shin's backstory and how, like, he might have been a fairly regular dude at the neighborhood association and go on a witch hunt. Granted, it was a witch hunt to stop sorcerers from experimenting on them, so there isn't a whole lot of moral high ground in that backstory, but either way, I thought that Sean did a really good job of just capturing Shin's quote-unquote descendant to madness, so to speak. And I like how casually it's laid out that even after the doctors helped him out and everything, he still just kind of grew up to be a horrible person. I just think that's a great joke. Where it's like, man, we did all that and he still turned out rotten.
I think they kind of wanted him to turn out wrong. They're like, it's gonna be fun, whatever you turn into.
Yeah. At the same time, though, he does at least have enough respect for them that he helps them out without a second thought when he runs into them in the last couple of episodes. And Sean does a good job of showing that Shin has a bit of a heart and not just what he wears on his head. But still, the most fun part of Sean's performance is watching him bounce off of Jeremy's Noe. And because as much as Shin tries to play it cool a lot of the time, he can be a bit of a dork whenever he's reminded how hot Noe is. And it makes a lot of their interactions pretty cute, and it's a pretty well-rounded performance for an unrepentant cleaner, but it's a lot of fun. And now for Noe. So out of all the casting choices in the show, this one was probably the weirdest. I'm not surprised Charmy Lay was in the show because she's been in a lot of slice bread dubs before. And like I mentioned in the ADR section, they tend to cast a lot of the same folks, so the odds were pretty high she'd be in here somewhere. But when I think of Charmy Lee, I tend to think of characters like Lucy or Asuna, so you'd figure if anything she'd have probably been casted as Ebisu or maybe even Nikaido, since those are more within her general wheelhouse. So putting her as Noe is about as far less of that as you can get. But with all that said, she was a lot of fun. Jeremy's Noe sounds like if you took Lucy Hartfield from Fairy Tail and you put her on steroids, and then you cranked the Butch style all the way up to 11. In a way, it's kind of like a cartoonish version of what a stereotypical Butch lady would supposedly sound like. And in any other show, this would probably be off-putting, but here it just really works. While her voice is very cartoony, Dorohedoro was a very zany show to begin with. Beneath all the bloodshed, so she just feels very right at home here. And again, it helps that Noe is just such an instantly likable character, besides how rocking she is. Despite the fact that despite a lot of work she's in, Noe just portrays a constant sense of enthusiasm about basically everything she's doing. And I think that Charmy gets that across really well, and it just helps to make Noe even more charming.
She's just a Chad!
Yeah. And again, next to Fujita, she is probably the character who feels the most like a good person among our villain gang. And whenever she's not bashing skulls, she's kind of being a big sister to Ebisu and Fujita. And then Jeremy gets her warp across as well as he does all of Noe's constant pep. And I think it's just a lot of fun. But like with Sean, the performance gets a lot of fun whenever Noe bounces off of Shin. And compared to Shin kind of being very apathetic about his job, Noe is a lot more enthusiastic about it. And takes it a lot more serious than he does, which makes them a pretty good duo. And Jeremy bounces off of Sean pretty well in a lot of their interactions. I also think it's really adorable how much respect Noe has for Shin as her, senior, despite the fact that their first meeting had him literally whacking her over the head with a hammer. I think that Jeremy gets that respect across pretty well in spite of that, and it just makes Shin's flustered attitude even cuter, and These two are so cute. They should really just smooch already. Just let them do it, yo.
Just no, not even smooch. Like, I would just take them holding hands. Like, legit. Just hold hands and have, like, a blushed face look. God, they're so cute. Fuck.
Yeah, done.
Have them do the dirty dancing scene in reverse.
Oh, God, yeah.
With Noe holding Shin up at the end.
Yes!
Yeah, there we
go. Look. Shin is the one getting bridal carried in this relationship, and you fucking know it.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, his defense, Noe's like a foot taller than him. I'm not sure he'd be able to bridal carry her anyways.
Look, he makes up for it by being the big spoon.
Did you have more you wanted to say, Jet?
No, I'm done.
All right, Hardy, do you want to go?
Am I the only one who thinks that Sean Chiplock gives off major vibes of both Matt Mercer and Jonah Scott in this role? Like more so than
does.
You know?
Yeah.
I can totally hear Mercer, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I do like how he's able to sort of go from this, laid back sort of just let me do my job or just get off my case. And then if someone goes to hurt Noe or one of his friends, he goes, "Put gloves off, motherfucker." And he literally puts the hammer down.
Into the skull.
Mm-hmm.
Using the other end, the one that sticks.
Right. No, I think the best part is like at the second to last episode where he cuts the doctor's hand off with the hammer, and then he goes and say, "You wanted the head or you wanted the skull? Oh wait, I know you." And then he takes them all and gives them chips and soda. So,
hey, sorry about the arm. It's like, no big, I can patch it.
Yeah. But, he's a lot of fun, and especially his backstory, because everybody has a tragic backstory of this, as you find out. But especially with his interactions with Noe, they're just the sweetest little odd couple, and I'm with you. I want to see some hand holding and blushing and dirty dancing. But let's talk about Cherami Lee as Noe, because I too did not expect this. This is some grade A out the box casting here, because Cherami has been in this business since 2007. 13 years, and shows no sign of stopping, because she's been in pretty much every Netflix dub that you can think of as fairly memorable roles. If she's not the lead, then she's an important character. And it just goes to show how much of a range that she has developed over all that time. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard a role from Cherami that has ever, quote-unquote, sounded bad. She's been miscast a couple times, I'd have to say, but she's always been able to generally pull it off. So hearing her get to use her big girl voice for a character who is, I would estimate, because she's a very small woman in real life, she's probably barely 5 foot, and Noe's got like a solid 2 feet on top of her. So, yeah, casting her to play this character is definitely an interesting choice. And in the end, I do think it paid off, because I think this is my favorite performance in the show, or if not my favorite, one of my favorite. So, that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Andrew?
Okay, so I'll start off with Shin, because Shin it has as a backstory and a design that almost seems like in any other show. Like, there's a lot of these characters, I feel like I've seen them in other shows. I feel like Shin in another show would be... How do I describe it? He would be in the edgy Tokyo Ghoul ripoff style shows. He would be like the kind that was a mixed race kid, curses the world, on the run, killing, struggling to survive. That would be what Shin would be, just from his backstory. But he winds up just in a stable line of employment as a violent psycho cleaner for the mob. And he's just an alright dude. He's just doing his job. He's got nothing against Kaiman or Nikaido, despite the fact that they are technically enemies. He's just doing his thing. He's just doing his best. And I really like the voice Sean gives him. It gives him this very kind of soft-spoken, sincere, matter-of-fact, I'm just doing my job kind of thing. But you can definitely tell when his switch gets flipped, or when he gets his first taste for violence as a child. And it's like, oh man, you see like the screws coming undone. You can hear like the violent tendencies coming out, and you can hear it in Sean's tone of voice. And the fact that he's able to switch back and forth from that is actually really cool. But he's just kind of a cool dude. He's just kind of an alright dude. And yeah, no, his relationship with Noi is really cute and really shockingly wholesome. Shockingly. That's the strange thing about Dorohedoro. This is a show about psycho, violent murder people. But it's also like... This is... Okay, Shin and Noi are... They have a body count that's probably in the hundreds. There are scenes in the show... There's a scene in the show where, like, Noi accidentally crushes a dude's head and blood gets everywhere in the car like it's a fucking scene out of Pulp Fiction. That's just their life. But their relationship is like people who would get embarrassed about asking the other to the prom. It's like, oh no, like, what if she doesn't like, what if she doesn't like me that way? What if she's embarrassed of being around me? Like, what if I smell weird? What if I dress like a dork? Like, what if I trip over my feet or something like that? That's the level of relationship. Their work relationship is that of, like, violent murderers, but they're actually really adorable and vanilla, and it's sweet. But Sean really does play all of Shin with a real exceptional level of, like, cold calculating badass, psycho murderer crazy man, and also just genuinely, like, sincere, cool guy who's very casual and hangs out, and you'd grab a beer with this guy. Sean does a good job. Chermi Lee is... She's stupid talented, and she is readily shows up. She's had a really strong, promising year of voice acting. But even this is a voice I'm very unfamiliar with, which... How do I even describe the tone of voice? Imagine if Lady Rhea from Fire Emblem 3 Houses had the body type of Raphael from Fire Emblem 3 Houses. Which, to those of you who have never played Fire Emblem 3 Houses, that boy is basically just has muscles popping out of his fucking shirt. That is the best way I can describe this tone of voice. It's like, it's a very similar, like, lower gravitas, almost very casual royalness to it, but with a level of, like, buff jock Chad that is so strange, where it's like, I'd kick your ass. Like, she's gonna kick your ass, she's gonna beat your ass hard, but she's also kinda just nice. Like, this is the kinda jock Chad character who isn't going to be mean. She's just gonna be like, hey dude, I see you're doubting yourself. I see you're doubting your looks. You're having trouble with your self-confidence. You're great. Like, you've got a lot to offer. You've got some cool things. You've got some cool stuff going on for you. You know what Noe is? Noe is the Japanese fisherman that's just standing in the middle of the water that's yelling at you to never give up.
Okay.
Is that a thing?
Yes! Have you never seen the Never Give Up video?
No.
It's-
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's literally just like, I never give up. It's literally just a Japanese fisherman that's just standing, like, basically, before the Shia LaBeouf Just Do It, there was just this guy who was just basically shouting, like, don't give up. Don't give up. You can do it. Never give up. I'm sending you this video. Just because, like, basically, like, don't quit. You can do it. You have the power. I just want to see Noe just standing in the middle of the water, just shouting at you to never give up. That's Noe. She is just a friend. She is a friend. She is a good friend, and Jeremy plays her with such a kindness and sweetness to her, despite the fact that she will kill you and kick your ass. And also, let's just say it, she's fucking fine.
I want her to bench press me.
Oh god, everybody wants to be best friends. Everybody wants it. The gays, the straights, the lesbians. Oh god, the lesbians. Like, the lesbians want it so bad from Noe, and I don't blame you. I knew about some of her costumes. I knew about her sexy rocking dress getup. Nobody told me. Nobody told me about her fucking sexy stewardess thing she's got going when she's walking Shin's dog. Which that basically means they're married if she's already just walking his dog. It's like, oh my god, she's so fucking hot. And I'm just going to say this right now. If you see that she is just a big, buff, muscular woman and you're thinking, ew, that's gross, I don't like that, you're a fucking bitch-ass coward and you won't survive the winter.
This has been the Thirst Hour with Andrew. Come back next episode for more Thirst with Andrew.
We have found out...
Next episode? I mean, there's still the next section, technically.
There still is.
So,
That's a good point, actually. I forgot
But what
about
I'm saying
that.
is,
All right.
Cherami Lay is a very talented lady playing a voice. I'm not very used to her playing. That really works for Noe, and Noe is just a fucking buff sweetheart, and I love her, and oh my god, she's so fucking hot. I'm done. I'm gonna quench my thirst now.
yeah.
Oh boy. I actually do recognize this video, but I only ever saw it as a screenshot on Tumblr, which is why I didn't recognize what you were talking about. Anyways, I like both these performances. I agree Sean does a really good job of just selling this thing that, like, this is just something Shin does to pay the bills. Like, he cares just enough about it to do a good job, and otherwise he just finds it kind of irritating. If his best friend weren't his partner, I feel like he would probably have quit already. And Sean just sells that really well. You really get the sense that, like, there's a reality where Shin was just like a nice solid dude, but he's born in Dorohedoro land, so now he's he's one half of the what the fuck's their name?
Cleaners?
Oh, no, that's called the Cleaners.
No, he's Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, that they are very much like the Pulp Fiction cleanup crew.
I mean, they are cleaners, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Sean does a really good job with that. I think Cherami is a lot of fun. I think she does a good job of tapping into the inner, like, sort of well-meaning meathead that is kind of inside Nikaido. Like, I wouldn't call Noe. I wouldn't call Noe a meathead per se, but there's that sort of, like, there's a nice beefy person, and they happen to work for the mob in this instant, but, like, they want to be friends with people, including the people they've been hired to go murder. Because that's just who she is, and she's just a lot of fun like that.
See, I want to give you a hug, but you're coming at me with a knife. And, well...
Oh, that wouldn't stop her. She'd give him a hug anyways.
She would give them a hug and then just Bane break their back.
Probably. And the entertainment between the two of them is absolutely delightful. Like, they're just a lot of fun. They're great. They're absolutely some of the highlights of this show. I can't wait for season 2 in part just because, more of this. It's wonderful. But now let us get to our final characters. Our protagonists. The people with who, for if not for whom, none of this will be happening. Kaimon and Nikaido. Kaimon has a lizard head, he doesn't know why, and there's a man living in his throat. And that is Dorohedoro. Also, he wears this rag gas mask occasionally, which looks really cool. He has problems. And Nikaido. Nikaido's his best friend. She runs a restaurant, she feeds him gyoza.
And beer.
and beer. Later we find out secretly she's a sorceress, and she has been keeping this a secret in part because she is worried Kaiman won't want to be friends with her anymore. Which is so adorable.
That's the conflict. Not that he'll hate her, not like that, like he'll want to kill her, she just wants to be his friend. This is a show that is like basically a sign-in murder, blood, gore, edge fest, but it's about buds. It's basically a shonen about friendship and love.
Except, not. Yes, but no. Yes, but don't worry. If you have anxiety about that thing, don't worry. It ends up okay. Just watch to the end. And playing these characters, we have, as Kaiman, Alex Lei, who you know for such roles as Zenitsu in Demon Slayer, Kaite in Japan Sinks 2020, and Kazuya Kinoshita in Rent-a-Girlfriend. And playing Nikaido, we have Reba Burr, who's known for playing Mari Itama in BNA Brand New Animal, Numi Tahiro in Knights of Sidonia, and Keitola Baudelaire in Violet Evergarden. Jet, you want to start us off?
Okay, so start with Nikaido. So before I'll begin, while I say that Noi is really hot and only Cower thinks otherwise, Nikaido is also pretty hot, and I don't think he could go wrong on either option. It just depends on what you want out of life.
They are both respectively the gold and silver medals of their own show, which helps that both of their hair are gold and silver.
Yeah, it just depends on what you want. Do you want a beefy lady who can be soft, or a soft lady who can also smash your head in?
Yes!
Basically, you're
yes!
Anyway, Ray Rimmer is an actor I've been more and more impressed by the more I hear from her, and it just adds to the pile. Like Charmy Lei is Noi, Rimmer's Nikaido was a little on the gruffer end. But compared to how, like, Zadie Mabut's voice Noi is, Nikaido sounds a little softer, so it makes for a nice contrast. And in general, Nikaido just comes off as a very warm and friendly person, and Rimmer gets that warmth across really well, and all of Nikaido's interactions with Kaiman. And she has just enough patience that you can understand why she puts up with all of Kaiman's antics and why the two of them are friends. And how she's just very clearly the smart one, which I mean, in Kaiman's case, that's not really saying a whole lot, but she's definitely the smart one. Of course, like everyone else in the show, she won't hesitate to slap a man in two. And while Nikaido never goes full-on psycho like some of the other characters in the show do, and when Nikaido's ready to crack some skulls, Rima can certainly add a bit of an edge to her tone that makes Nikaido pretty chilling, and it's definitely pretty cool to listen to. But of course, Nikaido is also a character who's hiding a lot of secrets while we don't learn, like, all the details behind them. We do get a pretty good idea of how much her former life as a sorcerer kind of bothers her. And I think Raven's delivery when she tells Kaiman a little bit about it perhaps really sells that. And you can tell she's being 100% sincere when she says he wants to be true friends with Kaiman. And it's a really cute dynamic. I really like what Raven brought to the table there. So as for Kaiman himself, first and foremost, Alexis Lee's range is absolutely nuts. This has definitely been his year, and while he showed he can play a wide variety of characters, even knowing that, going from Zenitsu to Kaiman is pretty wild. And while there are still like little vocal tics of his that you can recognize, if I didn't know it was him in the credits, I would have never believed it. Anyway, Kaiman himself is kind of a weird protagonist in that you could very easily mistake him for the villain. He's pretty ruthless whenever there's a sorcerer within 10 feet of his vicinity. And even compared to some of the other murderers in this show, he's the quickest to be violent in any situation. But that said, Alexis Lee is just really good at giving Kaiman a bit of an edge where it's needed. But Kaiman's just so much of a dumb wizard himbo, it's kind of hard not to like him. Kaiman has literally only 2 brain cells to rub together, but Alex Lee does a really good job of just selling how dumb and loud this lizard boy is. And it seems like the only things that are ever on Kaiman's mind at any given moment are probably just murder and Gyoza. It's weird, but it can also be really funny, and Alex Lee has some really good comedic timing for Kaiman. Whether it's him getting rightfully abused by some of the other characters in the cast, or just stuff like him pretending to be Tanba's wife in order to break into Ed's mansion, that whole thing in particular.
Oh my god, the fucking voice he uses.
That was so great.
Like, okay, just because I did break it up, it's like, how do I describe it? Imagine if Alex Lee was Ben Diskin playing Marge Simpson.
The weird part is I actually can see Ben Diskin doing that.
That's how I describe the voice. It's so weird, but it's perfect. Anyways, continue.
Anyway, it was really fun seeing Alex get to stretch his brains a bit while still keeping Kaiman in character. And of course, while Kaiman is a murderous goofball most of the time, he also is very clearly bothered by the mystery of who he is. And whenever Kaiman does stop to be introspective, Alex can be just as good at showing Kaiman's quieter moments as he can be as all of Kaiman's constant screaming. And also, as mentioned with Nikaido, those two just have like a really cute relationship. And while it seems like Kaiman just mostly hangs around Nikaido for her cooking, he really does care about her. And when push comes to shove, he'll do anything for her, and Alex does a really good job of making all of that feel pretty sincere. And that also makes things even funnier when he finds out Nikaido is a sorcerer, and Kaiman tries so hard to be mad at Nikaido, but he's just too much of a himbo to follow through on it. And Alex's delivery when he says he's cool when Kaiman says he's cool with saying friends with Nikaido, she's just never using her magic, was really cute. And boy, that promise is probably going to have an expiration date, but anyway, I thought Alex was a lot of fun. And even how fun a lot of the other performances in this show are, I think he delivers the strongest one. And if Alex wasn't on your radar before, like literally everything he's done this year, I have a hard time imagining he won't be after this show. I'm good.
Right. Hardy?
Yeah. I'm with Jet. I cannot accept that this is Alex Lee. I think it is a lie. I think Splicebed is lying to us, and they are telling us something. They're straight out telling us an inaccuracy, because I can't believe it. But nonetheless, if you had told me this was, I would not have believed you. But I have to agree that, yes, Alex Lee has an incredible range. I can't believe it, even though I know it's real. It's just amazing. Because he can even play Cayman. You have his moments where he's more exaggerated and it sounds more like a cartoon character, but then you also have his moments where he's very introspective, and it sounds much more natural and deep and dark when he's trying to figure out the mysteries in his head, who he was in the past life, trying to find get his memories back. And I just think that, yeah, this has definitely set Alex Lee up for a very promising future in anime voiceover. As far as Reba Burr is concerned, my favorite part of the performance, or one of my favorite part of the performance, is when she was younger, and in the OVAs when she meets the guy with the tea shop, and her interactions with him, and also her little recipe at the very end of the OVA of how she makes her gyoza. I think that was really cute on her performance. She proves that she's not just this rough and tough lady who will kick your ass and take no names. She's also very human. But another part of the performance that I kind of thought was underrated was when Asu turns Chota into Nikaido, or a form of Nikaido.
Oh, yeah.
And then you hear Reba do this sort of stereotypically over-effeminate version of Nikaido's voice.
It actually is pretty funny, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a complete 180. It's still the same thing, but it's a completely different type of performance because it's technically a completely different character. That's one part that I really got a kick out of. So, yeah, I liked both of these performances a whole lot, and I think they're some of the best in the show.
Nice. Andrew?
I'll start off with Reba Burr, because I've heard Reba's range, and her range is pretty insane, all things considered. Like, she could go really high-pitched squeaky if she wants to, because I'm thinking of stuff like Ascendance of a Bookworm and Sword Art Online, Gun Gale Online, where she could go really high into that register. But she's also got a pretty, like, lower, deeper register, which is a lot more of, like, what we hear as Nikaido. And she's cool, she's fun, she's very goofy, and she's also really, like, threatening, like, kung fu babe, is the way I describe her, is that she's really cool, and she's, of the duo, she is the one that's, she is the brains. She is the brains of this tag team duo. She is 100% the brains. Kaiman is not the brains. He is everything but. But yeah, no, Reba's got like this very like cool, like you hear the different sides of her. You hear her when she's friendly and like casual. You hear her like when she's ready to kill and kick an ass. You hear her when she's kind of brainwashed by N because of the forced contract she signs with her, and you hear her feeling much more cold and like distant, and you hear her be a lot more emotional and like open up. Like the final, like it's kind of a non-ending, the season ends, but it's kind of satisfying to see these characters just be friends and closer with each other than they ever have been before, and it's really sweet. Now that everything's out in the open, they're just kind of sleeping on each other, and it's cute. And I think Reba does a really stellar job as Nikaido, who also is a badass and is very hot. And men, ladies, lesbians, everybody wants to get some of Nikaido's Gyoza.
Thank you to part 2 of the horny hour with Danger.
Okay, now that I'm done with the horny hour, I'm not going to be too horny for Kaiman. That may surprise you, I got it out of my system already. Here's what I'm going to do. Alex Lee. Holy fuck. There are some dubs where you can make an argument over who is objectively the best person in the dub, who is the best performance in the dub. Sometimes there's arguments for a couple of them. Sometimes there's a couple of scene stealers. This is a pretty good show with a very strong dub and a lot of really great performances. Nothing tops Alex Lee as Kaiman. Oh my god, this fucking guy. Unbelievable. His rage is insane. He is this really high-pitched, goofy, cartoon crocodile lizard man. He's also kind of like this really like stern, gruff and tumble, like scary mercenary badass man. He's also a very silly cartoon character. He's also just... Another thing that's worth noting, Alex Lee was actually a big fan of both Dorohedoro before booking this performance, as well as a big fan of Wataru Takagi's performance as well. I actually remember seeing something, because I actually follow, I believe, the project manager of this particular one on Twitter. He actually said that Zenitsu was a big factor in him looking to get Alex into this role, and if Zenitsu was a real impressive, like, performance-defining performance, Kaiman is somehow even more impressive to me than Zenitsu, because it is several different characters all rolled into one giant crocodile chaos man. Kaiman is sweet. Kaiman is goofy. Kaiman is scary. Kaiman is violent. Kaiman is everything that is chaos and Dorohedoro. Alex Lee is somehow every single facet of Kaiman and is extremely convincing, compelling, fun to watch, scary, threatening, and also a dude I want to be my best lizard friend in the world. Alex Lee is insanely talented, and goddamn, this is probably like, in a year where he's already got like amazing performances, I'd say bar none, this is Alex's best of the year. And it's amazing. You should be proud of yourself, Alex. This is This is special. I could tell there's a lot of work that went into this. You done good, kid. Also, Kaiman is shaped like a friend, and he's also dummy thick. Fuck you, fight me!
Thank you, Andrew.
You're welcome.
Reba Burr as Nikaido, like, I'm in agreement with what's been said. Like, I think she plays this role really well. I think she covers the range of the character really well, and Nikaido's just a swell person, and I think Reba captures that aspect really well. And I'm agreeing with Hardy. Like, look, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a photo of Alex Lee on your screen right now. Look at him. Does this look like the man who sounds like the 6 foot tall dumb henchman from an 80s cartoon? No, it doesn't look like he should be able to make that voice. And yet, here we are. I'm getting flashbacks to that time that Hardy accused Damon Mills of not being able to do certain voices, so he just made a highlight reel of doing a bunch of them to show off. It's like that. He's so good, he's so fun, he uses this really doofy voice in, I think, just a really effective way, and he captures a lot of what's kind of weird and cartoony about Kaimon, and also what's, kind of sad and, tragic about him as well, and Alex Lee's done a lot of good for himself in, a pretty short amount of time, and, kudos to him for doing that. He's clearly got a lot of talent, and I look forward to what he's doing in the future. And on that note, shall we continue to our final thoughts?
Yes.
Jet, lead us off.
Dorohedoro is a very fun show. It is also a very weird show, but it's a show I had a lot of fun with. It's hard to describe what exactly the show is, but it is extremely entertaining. And it's also got a bit of a heart beneath all the crazy violence, and I had a really good time in it. The dub is also a lot of fun. There's some really interesting casting choices here, and I think the actors get to stretch their range in some pretty fun ways. And there's definitely a lot of creative choice that went into this. I really recommend checking out the show. And if you do want to check out the show, it has a really nice dub. So it's a great time.
Hardy.
I don't suppose many of you remember an old show for around the early 2000s on Comedy Central known as Ugly Americans.
Oh my god, really?
I'm like...
I've been watching random episodes as they've been airing on Pluto. I kind of switched between that and 1,000 Ways to Die. But when I went back to revisit this show, I'm like, wow, these two shows have a surprisingly lot in common with each other. They both have, direct access to hell. They both deal in, sorcerers and wizards. They both have what is essentially, civil services for demons. I don't think it was intentional, but if you were to compare the two shows together, they have surprisingly a lot in common. I think that this is a fun show. It's not for everyone because it is incredibly violent and gory and can be very disturbing at times. And there is eyeball humor. There is eyeball horror, so watch out for that.
Why'd you have to step on it?
But no, the worst part was when they were at the party and they had to scoop the little demon out of it. Ooh. Ooh.
This show is extremely
that
gross.
part I had to cover my eyes for. I'm like, no. But anyways, it's a fun little show, and if you've got the stomach for it, and if you've got the sort of absurdist humor that sort of thing you enjoy, I definitely suggest you check it out.
Excellent. Andrew?
Watch Dorohedoro because you might not even like it. This may not be a show for you. You might hate it. But watch it because there is nothing I can really compare Dorohedoro to. as like a direct point of comparison. There's like, I can maybe mention other genres things, but it's like, I'm really stretching. There is nothing that is quite like Dorohedoro. As far as like what it is effectively a violent gothic horror like nightmare world hellscape that is run by like psycho crazy psycho magic murder slice and dice bash people, but they're also just the biggest friends, and you want these people to be your friends. Like, this is a violent, scary world no one wants to live in, but they want to hang out and be friends with these characters. This is a fun show. This is an insane show. This is a show that on paper should not work, but it does. Watch Dorohedoro, not because it's the show for you, but because there is no other show quite like Dorohedoro, which, by the way, you want to know what Dorohedoro means?
Sure.
Mud sludge.
So I guess if Pop Team Epic is the anime equivalent of Tide Pods, would this be the anime equivalent of Drano?
Sure. Sure. Anyways, Dorohedoro. Go watch it. It's a very good show. It's a very good dub with some really standout performances. Check it out. It's on Netflix. Go for it.
Yeah, like I like Dorohedoro a lot. It is I feel like these days I comment on things being way more my speed than they were like in anime 10 years ago. I guess I'm finally being rewarded for my patience. And the zeitgeist has swung towards things Amon likes. I'll enjoy this 5-year period while I can. But yeah, Dorohedoro is just, it's very odd and strange and feels very unique. It's a lot of fun. I think this dub is really well put together. I think this is a really fun way to watch the show. I highly recommend it. If you do want to watch it, you can watch it on Netflix. You know where Netflix is. You probably already have an account or are borrowing one from a friend. It's on there.
Yeah, and they just announced they're raising their prices again. So
it's true, but that's where it is. You can watch it there. You can watch us in various places. You can watch us here on YouTube. You can also listen to audio-only versions of our stuff. We are primarily hosted on Podbean. We're also found on Apple Music or Apple Podcasts or whatever it's called, and Spotify, and most of your like podcast places we're probably on there. So you can go check us out there as well. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram and Twitch and so on at dubtalkpodcast on whatever that site is. We also have a Patreon. Where if you give us money, we will thank you, and we will also read your name out on the episode here. So thank you to our $5 patrons: Michelle Travis, Miraculous Corazon, Nico Robin, but with yaoi hands, and Victor Mayboroda. Sorry. And at the $10 tier, we'd like to thank Carly Lesticow, Crimson Echidna, Jacob Wilson, J2 aka Jared, Marissa Lenti, and Otaku Anthony. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, will you tell the fine people where they can find you on the internet?
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at DivineNick, where I'll usually just be talking about cartoons or anime or like whatever's happening in the world, because the world is so on fire, unfortunately. You can also find me on my blog Animation Infinity, where I will sometimes write things if I feel like it, and I am also sometimes on another Podcast O&A, where we will usually be talking about anime news or whatever alongside Andrew here.
I'm Spaceman Hardy. You can follow me on Twitter at Spaceman Hardy. I used to be a forum moderator over at the Funimation forums. They are since now defunct, but I am technically still a moderator over on Funimation's Discord. I usually post pictures of goats and rant and retweet tons of fan art. Yeah, that's me.
Hi there, my name is Andrew, aka Classy Spartan. You can find me over on Twitter at Mangaman9000. You can find me also on the same podcast alongside my buddy Jet here. That is Surreal Resolutions Podcast O&A, where we talk about the latest and greatest in anime news. I almost said anime English dubs. So I was like, wait a second, that's this podcast. Like, I almost confused my podcast. That's how you can tell I'm getting a little bit tired. I've almost confused the two. Anyways, I'm done.
And you can find me on Twitter at AmonDuelUS. Duel has 2 U's in it. I talk about movies and comic books and anime and music. And I have a dusty old song for y'all tonight.
Dusty old song. Dusty old song.
Well, for one, I will note that if you go on YouTube, you can actually find a playlist that was released with the manga, selected by Q Hiroshita himself to go along with the story. That's a lot of fun to listen to. But for this, way back before I watched or read Dorohedoro, a cartoonist on Twitter I like named Joe Witt, you can find him at Funk the Obligation, would occasionally do little Dorohedoro comics. And one that is very near and dear to my heart is a little one-panel thing of Noe Ibitsu and the dog dancing with a little boombox. And Noe asks, can this thing play anything other than Dragula Hot Rod Herman remix? And Ibitsu says no, and Noe says bitchin'. And you know what? That's correct. The Hot Rod Herman remix of Dragula by Rob Zombie is bitchin'. So go listen to it.
And after that, I have a dusty old song that everybody's listening to. It's Crocodile Rock by Elton John.
Oh my god.
I mean, you're not wrong. So go listen to that. Get cultured. And with that, thank you for listening. Y'all have a great evening. Rock on Boston, rock on Chicago.
And Otaku on, and we'll see you next time. Lost in Chaos.
Gyoza!
2, 1.